You are entering the realm between the hidden and forgotten, a slipstream caught between realities, a secret museum of the esoteric, the private library of shadows, all taking place in a world forged from mystery and caught between logic and myth. You are entering ParaReality.
Good evening, seekers of the strange and the unexplained. Welcome to ParaReality, a place where shadows whisper, mysteries linger, and the line between fact and the unknown grows razor thin. I'm Sandman, your guide through the hidden corridors of reality. Here every question awakens a mystery, and every mystery pulls us deeper into the truth concealed in the shadows. Tonight, we step once again into the world where truth and mystery collide. Welcome, my friends, to the ParaReality podcast. I'm your host, Sandman, and tonight I've got a very special first guest of the season. His name is Maxim Furek. He's an author and researcher whose book spans psychology, addictions, music journalism, and paranormal culture. For decades, flying saucers were dismissed as merely fantasy, misidentified lights, hoaxes, or hallucinations. Then pilots spoke up. Radar confirmed the impossible, and Congress started asking questions. But what if UFOs aren't just machines in the sky? What if they're psychological events, cultural mirrors, altered states of belief playing out across history? Well, this is ParaReality. And this is the Flying Saucer Esoteric. To learn more, you'll have to turn on, tune in, and find out. ParaReality is a proud member of the Evergreen Podcast Network. For more information or to check out other shows on the network, please visit evergreenpodcast.com.
Broadcast from a secret bunker somewhere outside of Nashville, Tennessee. This is the award-winning podcast, ParaReality.
There are stories that refuse to stay buried. Stories that just sit beneath the surface of our shared memory, waiting for the right moment, the right witness, the right voice to bring them forward. For decades, humanity has looked to the sky, reaching for answers in the unexplained movements of lights overhead, the impossible shapes drifting across our radar screens, and the testimonies of those who swear they have encountered something not of this earth. Governments once laughed at the idea of UFOs, flying saucers. Scientists dismissed witnesses' accounts as fantasy, delusion, or just simple misinterpretation. But now, congressional hearings, leaked government documents, whistleblowers, military footage, and global curiosity have forced the world to reconsider what used to be called impossible. Are UFOs simply misunderstood technology? Are they a psychological projection of culture, belief, and fear? Or are they visitors from somewhere or somewhen else? Tonight we go beyond sightings, beyond reports, and beyond physical craft. We step into the altered states of belief, myth, consciousness, and contact. Because sometimes the truth isn't just out there, it's already here. Tonight's guest is someone uniquely positioned at the crossroads of psychology, culture, high strangeness, and the paranormal. Maxim Furek has built a career weaving together threads most researchers never attempt to connect: the mind, belief, folklore, altered states, and the unexplained. With a bachelor's degree in psychology from Aquinas College and a master's degree in communications from Bloomberg University, his work bridges academic insight with decades of field experience. Maxim has interviewed some of the most influential figures in paranormal history, including famed demonologist Ed and Lorraine Warren and White Witch Dr. Frederick Lamont Santee. His voice and research have made him a recurring presence in the paranormal world. He's been featured on Coast to Coast with George Norrie, Exploring the Bizarre with Timothy Green, and on Art Bell's Midnight in the Desert with Heather Wade. He's a contributor to Fate Magazine, Paranormal Underground, Strange Knocks, and has been featured at many conferences, including the Butler Paranormal Conference and the ECBRO, Virginia Bigfoot Expo. His body of work includes biographies and paranormal titles such as Coal Region Hoodoo, Shepton, The Lost Tribes of Bigfoot, Paranormal Apocalypse, and The Smurl Haunting, which is soon to be connected to The Conjuring Last Rites motion picture. But tonight, we're focusing on one of his more provocative works, and it's called Flying Saucer Esoteric, The Altered States of Ufology. That's a book that doesn't just catalog UFO reports, but examines the phenomena as a living, evolving intersection of belief, consciousness, history, and the human experience, from ancient theologians and astronomers to modern whistleblowers, hearings, and the now infamous Mexican alien corpses. So buckle up, listeners, because tonight we're not just discussing UFOs. We're questioning the nature of reality itself. Mr. Maxim Furek, welcome to the ParaReality podcast.
Sandman, for the info, having a nice conversation about flying saucers and UAPs and all of that. So yeah, thank you so much. And your introduction was just totally awesome. So thank you.
Thanks.
You know, that's great. I mean, we need to communicate not only just in poetic terms and but very good. Well done. So.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Worked real hard on that.
And also, as I said earlier, your library shelf is just a plethora of resource information. So I mean, look at that, the Necronomicon and the Stephen King books and everything else.
Yeah, I've got this. I just got this. Every year I get myself a Christmas present. And this year I picked this up, the Atlas of Unidentified Flying Objects. And it was suggested to me by Ryan Sprague from Somewhere in the Skies podcast. I haven't started reading it yet, but he highly recommended it. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to cracking that thing open. And I like physical media. I'm a physical media guy, so I like to buy books, but I do have a Kindle, and I have a bunch more that never going to be on the bookshelf on Kindle. So
yeah. And as you know, that term Atlas is resonating currently in what's happening here. So,
it is, and we're going to talk a little bit about that here in a few minutes. So I want to get right into it and start off with asking you some questions about your book, the Flying Saucer Esoteric, Altered States of Ufology. Now, this has been published by Beyond the Fray Publishers. So what is it that you're trying to say with this book?
Yeah, well, Beyond the Fray had published my Coal Region Hoodoo, Paranormal Tales from Inside the Pit. And I had a couple of chapters there referencing flying saucers, UAPs. I still like to use the word UFO or flying saucers. I mean, just like, that speaks to me. But I just felt that I needed to take it a little bit further. And when I was working on this, I sort of challenged myself. And I know this is sort of over the top, and I don't recommend anybody to go and do what I did. But I challenged myself to write a book in 100 days, and I was just something was being channeled through me. I wrote morning, noon, and night. I mean, but what I did was this. I knew that if I was just reaching the breaking point, if I was just getting too close to the edge or to the fire, that I would pull back. But I was giving myself 100 days to complete this, just to see if I could run with that creative process. And if you look at the book, there's in Roman numerals, I have the Roman numeral for 97. And I actually finished the book in 97 days. before I, hit the panic button. But I was really, really proud of myself. I mean, it was a challenge to myself. I did it, and there's no such thing as writer's block. Don't forget about that. If you're a writer, you write, and I have all these little files I call, doubts that I work on, get them right, and then I put them in manuscripts. So I'm forever working on that. But Flying Saucer Esoteric was my mission. It was my purpose. 97 days. But what I wanted to learn as much as I could about that whole flying saucer tapestry, before the days of Christ till now. And I just want to go and take a look at that whole thing. But it is something that's dynamic, it's evolving, it's fluid, it is not stagnant, it never has been. It's always something in motion, almost like a living organism, just breathes and and reproduces. So that's what I did. I was just trying to get into the whole thing about flying saucers. What is it? What are they? What are the theories, etc.? So that was my book, Flying Saucer Esoteric, The Altered States of Ufology.
Written in 97 days. I was going to ask you why 97 was displayed on the book cover. So now I know.
Yeah. And that was pretty much just a cryptic little message. It was just to myself and to some close friends. But so many people have asked me about that I answer. But that's what it was. But it's a couple of things. One was it indicates the mission that I was on. But the other thing, it really represents my passion for the topic. And I think that's my buy-in. That's important about the book and the connection to the book. That
I'm sorry. This was 97 consecutive days, right?
Yeah, exactly. Morning, and again, they were full working days. I mean, my wife rarely saw me, but that was the plan.
Yeah.
Get it done. To get as much of it done in 100 days as I could. But here I finished it up in 97. So that's what it was. It was almost like, like taking microdoses of LSD or MDMA or, some other hallucinogen, which some people do, but, but I didn't. And I didn't have to. I didn't have to rely on, I think if I did reach an altered state, which I believe I did it just naturally, just through all the,
So that's kind of you. It's funny that you brought up altered state, because that's kind of something I wanted to ask. Was you immersed yourself in this for 97 straight days, morning, noon, and night? I mean, and so did you find that immersing yourself in this for that long a time, did you find that it changed you in any certain way, like your attitude, your mindset, your whole state of being? I mean, getting involved in something that heavily, with that's a really hefty timeline to write about a subject that is as unending as UFOs.
Good word. Yeah. I think what I took with me was a lot of energy, of creativity, a lot of passion, and a lot of confidence. There was no way that I could allow the voice of self-doubt to come in there to say, you're just foolish, you're being stupid, you're wasting your time, all this other stuff. It was not. It was just like full steam ahead, work on it, make it as good as you can, and be done with it. So there was no, what it changed me with was total. I mean, there was no room for second doubting. I mean, you just can't do this, again, it's, what worked with me can work with everybody, but if you're committed to a certain project and you put the time and effort into it, you leave the rest of the universe. You do your due diligence, you do the hard work, work in the trenches, and that's the key. Persevere, determine, stay the course, and then at the end see what happens and see what the result is. And and what the result is a book that the directors of MUFON in Maryland, Virginia, Washington D.C. have underscored this book as as something that as a reference book, and which I want it to be viewed as that, because it takes a look at that whole history that evolved, never-ending history, as you mentioned, Sam, and history of ufology. So, and that was part of this. I mean, it will remain a milestone in my career as a published author.
And what is your connection to Richard Sharp Shaver, and what is Shaver's connection to earlier UFO hysteria?
Yeah, a lot of people have never heard of Richard, but I was born in Berwick, Pennsylvania, in northeastern Pennsylvania, and that's the anthracite coal region. You know, we like to say that we fueled the Industrial Revolution. And of course, we did it on the backs of a lot of guys that were almost like indentured servants. I mean, that wasn't very pretty, but you know, people worked hard. They went into the mines and they worked hard. Richard Sharp Shaver was born in Berwick, Pennsylvania, as was I. And back in the 40s, he claimed that he was captured by these evil robots. He called them Deros. And that they were torturing him, and he was able to go and communicate with them and all that. And then and during the 40s, there was a series of articles in Amazing Tales called The Shaver Mysteries. And Ray Palmer, or RAP, R-A-P, he was the publisher, and he claimed that these were true stories. So he published the accounts of Richard Sharp Shaver, you know, being a prisoner of these evil robots, published as being true, and people believed that they had Richard Sharp Shaver get-togethers. They would get together and talk about this, and also people started to say that I also hear these robots. I'm also being tormented by this. So it became like a therapy session. But just a couple of things. One, you know, people believe what Richard Sharp Shaver said. Two, he talked about flying saucers coming from inside the planet and not being from outer space. And the FBI had a dossier on Richard Sharp Shaver and Ray Palmer, claiming that they created the UFO hysteria of the 1940s. That started in 1947 with Kenneth Arnold and the Roswell crash. FBI claimed that Richard Sharp Shaver did it first. So so time passed, and then Ray Palmer told the reader that actually that Richard Sharp Shaver wasn't a prisoner of these robots, but he was actually a patient at a mental institution in Michigan. And most likely he was receiving shock treatment only because shock treatment was cheaper than doing the psychotropic meds like Thorazine and Mellaril. So Richard Sharp Shaver, when he wrote about being punished and tortured by the Zeros, he was probably talking about what was happening with the shock treatment when
in the mental institution.
Yeah. So Richard Sharp Shaver. Now Dr. Dean Bertram out there in Wisconsin has put together a thing called the Shaver Mystery, which is what they call a shorty. It's maybe a 14-minute documentary that he talked about Richard Sharp Shaver. I'm in there, and I talk a little bit about the shock treatment and about Richard's career. But there's a whole lot of other people. Tim Schwartz, for example, who's noted for his time travel books and just so many other things. I mean, Tim's just like wonderful. And but this is a shorty that's been making its rounds in these documentaries and taking a lot of first places. But it'll be part of Dr. Dean Bertram's picture called "The Man Who Created the Saucers," and that is all about Ray Palmer and his association, Richard Sharp Shaver. So in the annals of ufology, Richard Sharp Shaver and Ray Palmer are essential. They deserve a chapter in that book of Flying Saucers, only because they're at the hip and they gave us so much. So they need to be heard and recognized and for what they've done. Okay.
And you've also written about George Adamski and his flying saucer stuff. Now he has his detractors. There's a lot of people that say he was a con artist, and I'm kind of of that mindset that he was probably running some sort of con there. So what's going on with that with you and George Adamski?
Yeah, okay. Well, George Adamski definitely was a con artist. He was a con man. He was a charlatan, and he was there during the early days of the flying saucers. And this was back just before Kenneth Arnold saw those 9 discs along here. But George Adamski claimed that he saw this craft, this cigar-shaped craft, land in the desert, and that he spoke with a man, a Nordic-looking alien with long blonde hair and blue eyes and everything. They looked a lot like us, but developed a friendship with this alien. He talked through sign language and telepathy. So he talked about that. He talked about that he was a operative for the government, which he wasn't. He had all kinds of photographs of flying saucers. A lot of these were debunked by people like J. Allen Hynek for being a collection of GE light bulbs, and also the most infamous one, the one that just I mean, you just can't wrap your head around it. It was a chicken incubator device that he showed that as his flying saucer. Now it was a chicken incubator. But back then, you know, in the early days of flying saucers, people believed it. So even though Adamski was amateurish, you know, he was sort of folksy. He was a good-looking Polish gentleman that spoke broken English, had, I think, maybe a 3rd grade education. But what he did was a couple of things. He was charismatic. He was able to get a lot of women to come up there to his place in San Diego, Ontario, and work for him free, gratis. He had people that would actually co-write or ghostwrite his 3 books. It wasn't him, but it was other people that did this for him. No matter what he did, he was a con. He was, he claimed that he went to Saturn for a 5 conference. He said he went to the moon and everything. None of that was true. But what he did was after 1945. This is after we had bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the world was scared. Because we realized that we were at the point where man destroyed the planet. We were capable of doing that, unfortunately. George Adamski came along, and he was one of the foremost proponents of the New Age movement. And he said that if you listen to the Space Brothers, my friends who came down from Venus, my friends who take me on flying saucer rides to Venus, to the moon. If you listen to these Space Brothers, they will teach us how to stay safe from destroying ourselves. So that was their benevolent, altruistic message. And, you know, whenever we look at sci-fi movies, either these aliens are benevolent, they want to help us save ourselves, or else they're like Alien, you know, or Terminator. They're just vindictive, evil, aliens that are coming to get us. So Adamski was a shapeshifter, a little bit of everything. Certainly he was a con artist, but people found him likable, wanted to do things for him. And, he was even invited to, I want to say the Netherlands. He appeared there with the Queen. I may be wrong. I think it was the Netherlands, but he was able to go there and speak with her because, I mean, she was just so caught up in him and what he did. So that was his story. But Adamski, certainly in the book of Flying Saucers, if, we would all get to and write that book, certainly Ray Palmer and Richard Sharp Shaver would have a chapter, as well as George Adamski, the professor who wrote the book, who was like, and again, the term contactee, someone who interacted with aliens, he was the one that conjured that. He gave that presented that to our lexicon, one who helped us to learn what that word represented. So Adamski was there. He was a pioneer.
Well, I'm glad that you have included, people like Richard Shaver and George Adamski in your work, because, even though one was, I guess, certifiably crazy, and the other one was a certified, a proven con artist. People like that do have a place in ufology because they do have that, especially Adamski, where he, helped coin some phrases and helped shape the way that people view aliens, as, oh, they're benevolent beings and they're going to help mankind, which is something that has kind of, it still flows through to today. So even though, they may not have been actual true stories, what they contributed to the history does count. It does matter. And when you're talking about stuff like this, you have to look at all sides of the story. So you have to have the good as well as the bad,
Right.
And
right. And when you look at those folks, especially Adamski, he provided hope. He gave us hope. And again, this was during a time when a time period Russia had launched their satellite, the first satellite to go outside of our solar system. When the book On the Beach was there, people waiting to die from radioactive clouds, due to a nuclear war. So a lot of that Cold War paranoia, a lot of the space age anxiety, a lot of that stuff was hanging over the United States in the late 40s and early 50s. And it was reflected in our science fiction, in our in our books, our literature, all of that. I mean, so that's
movies,
all that. So that's a very, and then with Adamski, we didn't know too much about flying saucers, what they were, what they represented, and Adamski was there, professor was there to teach us, and that's what he did, So anyway.
So skipping ahead to modern times here, what do you think about the recent hullabaloo over the 3-Eye Atlas?
Yeah, the 3-Eye Atlas, and we all did our research after we saw that, but it was 3 interstellar atlas. So it was the 3rd comet or asteroid that came from solar system that we started to track. One was in 2017, one was in 2019, but this one was big, had some blue in it. They thought it was carbon dioxide. And the Harvard professor that was, I think it was Avi Loeb, I believe his name was
Avi Loeb.
Avi Loeb, believed that it was being propelled by intelligent forces. And, and he explained why. He said there was faster, than the other 2 came from out of the solar system, that there was no residue or debris as it was going. And later on, it did start to break up. So that part wasn't true. But he said the same thing about Mawa, I believe it was called. And that was the
Oumuamua,
How do we say it?
I think it's pronounced Oumuamua.
Oumuamua, maybe.
Something.
Okay. I'm looking at Oumuamua, but whatever. But that was the one from, I think, 2019 or 2017. And again, Dr. Loeb said the same thing, that this was an this was an extraterrestrial presence there. So he's looking for the proof, and he's been one of the foremost proponents of trying to figure out what these things are. He wants them to be alien craft. But here's the thing. With this one, NASA and everybody else is saying, no, that is just maybe a meteorite. I don't think it was an asteroid. I think it was a meteorite. It reminds me of the drone hysteria of 2014. That reminds me of the Chinese air balloons of 2023. And I don't know about you, but I'm still waiting for the final conclusion about the Chinese weather balloons. They were as big as buses. They were flying over, and we shot 1 down or 2 down, but nobody ever said this is what they were. Nobody ever confronted China with and accusing them of having a weapon, a spying device. It was flying over Canada and the United States. So that was the one thing that left us sort of confused, dazed and confused in a bit. And then in 2024, Halloween, we started to get all these reports of drones over New Jersey. And again, this was during the Biden administration, and I was following this and taking notes and listening to everything I could, but the Biden administration was not able to adequately explain what it was. I mean, they tried, but they couldn't. Trump, who was a president-elect, I believe at the time, really should have shut off, but he mouthed off and saying that the government knew something and there was a conspiracy.
Yeah.
And that just added to the flames. I mean, he should have just kept himself out of it. But again, everybody piled on.
Yeah.
The guy that was the developer of drones, United States, successful dude, claimed that terrorists stole a nuclear device from Ukraine, brought it over to New Jersey where they were going to explode it, and government drones were flying over Jersey trying to find that heat signature. And then there was another one, Nancy Mace, I believe, from South Carolina, representative, who's on one of the UFO committees, claimed that she believed that it was extraterrestrial, that these are from outer space. So we had all the flavors of the day. And then to this point, again, my question is, and Sandman, you've talked to everybody about this. I mean, what's the conclusion? What was the concluding thoughts about the drone hysteria of 2024?
Well, you know, that's a great thing to bring up. And I did hear what you brought up about someone that said there was a nuclear package that was brought in from the Ukraine that was being flown over. And then I heard there was some defense contractor or some private company. I can't, it escapes me off the top of my head, but there was some other non-government entity who was flying the drones over New Jersey for whatever reason. And that might've been in conjunction with trying to find this supposed nuclear thing. But here's the deal. If you look back at the Colorado drones back in the mid 2010s, and you look at Oumuamua and now the 3i Atlas, and now these New Jersey drones, we have all of these people, thanks to social media, making all of these claims and all of I hate to use this term because but fake news, you know, have all these fake stories that people are just literally pulling out of their ass. And now, thanks to AI, now we have all of these videos and all this other sorts of stuff and people making all these wild predictions. But then when it comes down to it, at the very end, when nothing happens, when 3i Atlas is proven to be exactly nothing more than a comet or an asteroid. Now, it's a very unusual one. It's not a normal one, but it is just that, you know. So when all of this happens and everything is all said and done, these same people shut up, and they just treat it like it was a non-entity. Like it never happened. So where are these people now? Where are these people saying, "Oh, okay, I was wrong"? You know, it's almost like it's not okay to be wrong anymore. You can be wrong. It is fine. Being wrong is how you learn. You know, and it's just one of the many ways on how you learn things. And so we've got a whole bunch of people making a whole bunch of wild accusations about stuff that they don't know anything about, or they're trying to get their 15 minutes of fame for whatever reason. Is it seems like everybody now wants to be internet famous, you know? So what's the end goal with all of this? When is it going to stop? But I don't think that the Colorado drone mystery was ever solved. At least not that I have in my research. And I devoted 2, maybe I think 3 episodes to that whole thing. I talked about the New Jersey drones. I've looked into it. You know, I've talked to people who lived in the area who've seen those drones, and they didn't know what it was. There's no like real answer. And what really disturbs me about stuff like that is that when these happen and we don't get an answer, is we don't get anyone to come out officially, whether it's our government or whoever, to come out and say, yeah, we don't have an answer. You know, some things you can't answer.
Right.
You know, there are many things that happen in this universe that we don't have an answer for because we don't understand or we don't have enough information. So I really wish that somebody of authority, whoever that is, not necessarily the government, but maybe that's who needs to be, should just come out and say, we don't know what it is. Sorry, we looked into it, but whatever threat there was is gone now. You know, or you know, 3I Atlas, it was just a comet. It was just an asteroid. There's no, you know, there's no alien invasion happening. It's not a probe. You know, the Earth's not being invaded. We're not being destroyed. I would think that if we were being invaded, we would know by now.
Yeah. Yeah. 3I Atlas was an easy one. I think that that's being defined by the scientific community, by NASA, by you and I, you know, so I think that that's going to go away and be you know, a nice little category. Didn't happen with the drone hysteria of 2024 because we're still trying to figure out what that was. And it was almost like a Rorschach test. You know, you look up at the sky and you're going to see something. You're going to see something. So I'm a snowbird. I spend winters in Florida and on the Gulf side. And I'm a lucky guy, a lucky paranormal guy. But let's say July of 2023, when they had the first Congressional UFO hearings, I had written 6 letters to people like Marco Rubio, Representative Paulina Luna, I'm trying to think the Tim, what's the name, from Tennessee, I believe.
Tim Burchett.
Tim Burchett. So I had written, I think it was 6 letters. The only one who responded was Marco Rubio. Now, he was the senator of Florida at the time. But I was asking all 6 of these people for the example of David Grusch, who during the testimony of 2023 said that he knows where the crashed vehicles are and he knows where the non-human biologics are. That's the first time anybody ever heard that term, non-biologics, you know. And he talked the talk. I mean, you got to give him credit for, you know, so he was talking giving us some vocabulary words that we never heard of before. But anyway, that was in July of 2023. Now, what has transpired since then? I mean, the same question as the drone hysteria of 2024. What do we know? Nothing. I mean, we're no closer to the truth after the congressional hearings of 2023, 2024, or in November rather, of 2025. It's all the same thing, that these people, whistleblowers, people that worked for maybe governmental spook operations, you know, covert operations, claim that they know something, claim that there's no transparency, claims that the government knows something and there's a cover-up. So with my letter, I asked these 6 people, including Marco Rubio, couldn't you encourage David Grusch to show his cards, tell us what he knows? He said that he would go and tell us, reveal what he knows, but only under proper circumstances because this information is classified. Well, classified data is nothing. It's like, you know, I mean, it's the least sensitive, you know, type of clearance that we have. You know, it's not top secret or, you know, any of that. So anyway, I got a letter back from Marco Rubio, and then he was bumped up to Secretary of State. So I lost my contact, and that's exactly what I was trying to do. I was trying to get them to at least, you know, take it a step further. But look what's happened: 3 congressional hearings, and every time, you know, you have a talking head from the government or from the Pentagon saying, nope, we have nothing, we don't know anything, we're being transparent, we have no bodies, we have nothing, we know nothing about Roswell. But Marco Rubio, and even though I'm not on the same side of the street as he is politically, he's been able to come across as really being I think a sound voice of ufology. And with the motion picture, The Age of Disclosure, he was interviewed there, and Marco was saying that the reason that we're not getting this information, well, what he's saying is the reason we're not getting this information is because we don't have the right to know. And with all of these congressional hearings, with all these politicians knocking at the door for to have these doors open, the door's not opening. We're no closer to learning
No.
the truth now as we were back in 2023. And Marco Rubio told it right. He said that, you know, we just don't have the right to know and the need to know. And you might have the need to know if you were a member of that spook organization, but you're not. And even if you're a senator or a representative, you don't have the need to know. So that's the way it is. You know, there's things happening there. And you mentioned this at the beginning of the show. There's things happening that we may never understand. And look at the whole realm. Look at my book, Flying Saucer Esoteric. I mean, for centuries, for centuries, people have looked up into the skies and seen things. And I talk about this, you know, in the days before Christ, when people would look up there and believe that there was life on other planets, and go against church and state, and you know, and all this. So it's just like a fantastic narrative, but it seems to be the same story all the time,
told by different people.
By different people. So it's nothing's changed much. But again, what do you think of this? That Rubio said that the reason we're not getting the intel is because we don't have the need to know.
Well, as someone who I used to work many years ago, back in the 90s, I worked for the DOD out at Fort Rucker, Alabama, and I had a top secret clearance. So I can understand what he's talking about as far as need to know, because I was involved in a support function for several things that even though I was involved in a support function with it, I did not know what was going on. And I did, because I did not need to know. And, you know, I was specifically told, report to this place and this building at such and such a time, and you're going to be there from this time to this time. And if we need you, we will come get you, and we will or we will tell you where to go if we need you. Otherwise, stay in this area, don't leave. And if you see anything, don't say anything to anybody, or you stand the chance of being prosecuted. And now, look, I wasn't like doing some black ops, you know, thing or anything like that. But can I talk about what I was doing? Probably so, because I never was privy to what was really going on. But so I can understand him saying about the need to know. The problem is, in my point of view, is that the government has contracted out so much stuff over the decades, whether it's UAP or not. They've contracted out so much stuff with these different agencies that the people running the agencies are like, the government doesn't need to know. We need to know, but they don't. So if there are outside contracted agencies that are going to UFO crash sites and collecting material, whether it's, you know, UFO wreckage or parts or even what was it, extraterrestrial biologic entities or whatever, how obligated do they feel to tell the government what they've got? And once again, it's on a need to know basis. So do they feel the government needs to know, or do they feel like it's our property now and no one else needs to know, and we're going to try to profit off of this? So I think the government really in the last 4 to 5 years has started taking the UFO, UAP phenomena more seriously. I think that is in large part to, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I think it's in large part to Luis Elizondo and him, you know, doing his whistleblower thing about ATIP. And and the work that he's done in the private sector since then. However, I think that all of these congressional hearings, all these people that they're having to talk and all this other sorts of stuff, it's a smoke and mirror job. They're taking it seriously, I think, but not as serious as what they want to project that they are.
Mhm.
They're going to have some hearings, and then nothing's going to happen about it. And they have this mandate thanks to this bill that there was another AARO has been invented, this agency to take over ATIP, and they have to do this report out every year to Congress and all this other sorts of stuff. And AARO may do that, and I'm sure they will. But how seriously is Congress going to take it, and what are they going to do? Are they going to take any of the findings, and are they going to do a deeper dive?
Mhm.
I don't think so. I think it's because you go back to what Marco Rubio said, is that they don't think that the public has the right to know, or
Right.
the need to know.
Yeah.
And those are two different things, right? The need to know and the right to know. And I think the government, even though they say you don't have the need to know, they really think you don't have the right to know.
Yeah. And also, if we could just muck this up further, we may not have the capacity to know. I think the report was the Robinson Committee way back when, maybe in the 50s, that I think that's what it was called. But that indicated that we would go berserk if we found out that there was alien life forms, that it would turn society upside down, that it would, especially with Christianity and other
absolutely.
religions. So that was the other thing too, that it would be just too disruptive to announce that there's alien life forms that are existing, coexisting with us. So that was the other thing too.
Muslims and Christians would just totally, their heads would explode.
Yeah.
And it would disrupt a lot of things. And there would be people like me and you would be, sitting like, I told you so, but the chance that it would totally disrupt everything. I mean, can you imagine what the reaction of the world would be if a UAP or UFO, whatever you want to call it, landed on the front lawn of every major capital, every national capital, in the world, if they all did it at the same time? So there's no way you could deny it. What would happen? How would the world react to that? And I don't think it would be that great.
Mm-hmm.
Disclosure is going to, and this is where I do agree with the government on this. I think disclosure is going to have to take place piecemeal. It's going to have to be a little bit at the time in order for everyone to be more on board and accepting of it, and for the world to not go crazy and catch on fire.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe one day we'll have a unifying body that in our government that really wants to do good for the American people and not for the party, and be a little bit more transparent. But I don't think, I think we're closer to it now than what we ever have been, but I don't think that we're going to see it anytime soon, probably not in our lifetimes.
Yeah. I think that's entities like the Montauk Project, actually, I think it exists, maybe not on Long Island, and not like, some of the science fiction people thought does, but I was at a conference a couple years ago, and the guy sitting across from me worked for the government in remote viewing. And
that's still active.
Yeah, I wanted to go and pick his brain and find out. And he goes, "I'm sorry, I can't tell you." But
yeah,
it's my belief that there's all these government entities, maybe not headquartered in Montauk, but all over the place, that may be specializing in things like remote viewing, time travel, astral projection, mind control, you name it, anything that would give us a military edge. And I think that United States, Russia, China, maybe Iran, maybe North Korea, I think they're all, Israel, they're all playing around with that to try to get the military edge. So I think that that's one thing that's happening. And, so I think we're we dance around the truth. But I think that Montauk is something that was representative of that. And then even with Roswell, I mean, we keep on talking about something came down, the government knows what it is, won't tell us, but
their bodies everywhere.
I'm thinking that Roswell is more of a mythology, and something like Kecksburg, the 1965 crash in Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, was more authentic, only because of the time period. As soon as that happened, people came forward. They were interviewed. They gave their testimony. The Freedom of Information Act was utilized to get information. However, much of it was either redacted or lost, even though there was an immediate request for that. But compare Kecksburg with Roswell, and Roswell, the Roswell incident with William Moore and Stanton Friedman did a lot of work with that. But that book was 33 years later before they interviewed these people, and it was second and third party, so the story wasn't fresh, but it grew, and it grew into this mythology, and we can't get away from Roswell, even though what do we have?
We got nothing.
I met Walter Hout. He was the guy that was the publicist for the Army Air Force. Army Air Force. So what happened was the newspaper caption was Army Air Force captures disc. So this article that he wrote, and then I think it was later that day, maybe in the evening edition, they said no, it wasn't a disc, it was a weather balloon, and they had the stage thing that looked like it was staged, that it was a weather balloon, but it was probably a lie. It was probably Operation Mogul, and and they were using that just to see if the Soviets were testing anything underground, So, but I mean, why not discuss that now? Because it's archaic technology. I mean, I don't think it would give away anything now. So, but there were too many lies, and now the people just don't. They don't believe the government, even when the government's telling the truth. So Roswell got bigger and bigger and bigger, and here it is. It's never gone away.
Because of the government's own actions, distrust in the government is always going to be something they're going to battle. So I go back and forth about Roswell. Did something happen? Did something not happen? Just when I think I'm convinced, it's like, oh, this was a total non-thing. I'll read an article, or someone will come out with some sort of theory, or there'll be something in the book, and I was like, oh, that makes a little bit of sense. Maybe there is something to it. So I don't know. But I tend to lean more on the fence that it probably did have something to do with Project Mogul, and they just didn't want the Soviets or whoever to know what it was. And I don't know whose grand idea it was to say, oh, it's a UFO, and then come back and retract it less than 24 hours later. And that's where you get all the controversy and everything. There's like you said, there's too much he said, she said, too many people that are telling inaccuracies, because it was 33 years later before it was really thoroughly investigated. And we'll never, ever, ever know what happened to Roswell. But it is probably one of, if not the most important events in ufology. Whether there was anything to it or not, it really was the one that kicked the doors wide open for all of this. I mean, even Kenneth Arnold was, he's famous, and if you're in ufology, you know who he is and what he saw, and he's the guy responsible for the term flying saucer. But I mean, even him, this eclipses him. And if you were to ask people what's the top 10 UFO stories or UFO events, Roswell's always at the top. So it's you go back to like what we were talking about with George Adamski and Richard Schaefer. Those guys, they have their place in ufology, just like Roswell does, whether anything really actually happened there or not.
But it's what's interesting about the realm of the paranormal and the ufology, we can talk about it. We can talk about the possibilities. And this is what I like about this field. I've been doing this for, I don't know, maybe a good decade, and just this whole thing about the paranormal, just stalked me and hit me over the head. I mean, I'm a former rock journalist. I wrote about rock and roll, and I was having a good time, and I was relatively successful and all that. And then when I wrote the book about the Shepton mythology back in 2016, that just opened up doors like kaboom, kapow, just like meant to be, call it what you will. But, it's been great. And I'll say this, Sandman, about the paranormal community. I mean, people have been so helpful, so respectful, so accommodating. Just, I can't say enough about that. I mean, people have been very, very eager to help open doors for me. And, can't say enough about that. It's a great community, a lot of really nice people there. And I'll say this, not as territorial as some of us older guys. I think a lot of the paranormal community are comprised of younger people that have more of a tribal nature, a tribal instinct, a communal instinct that let's help one another, and it's wonderful. And I know this because I mean I've been helped by numerous people like that. So
that's great.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
Well, we're quickly running out of time, so I have a couple of final questions I'd like to ask you.
Yeah.
So the Age of Disclosure documentary that just hit Amazon a couple of weeks ago, that's all the buzz. Now, I have not seen it yet. I've got it in my queue.
Yeah.
Just haven't taken the time to. I was going to watch it this weekend, and now time's gotten away from me once again. But have you seen it? And if you have, what's your
I have not seen it yet. I think it was on Netflix, and my wife didn't want to pay whatever it was.
It was like $20. Yeah.
So we didn't watch it. But I read a lot about it, and just a couple of things. They're saying that the government knows things, and there's no transparency. Yeah. They're not disclosing. And they interviewed like Navy pilots and people like Marco Rubio. And I think one of the key points was that Marco Rubio said that you have to have a need to know. And that seemed to me was really the main theme of what I've read, we'll see. But I do want to go and see this because I think it's an important document that maybe articulates the ufology up to this point. So maybe it's like a current a document, a report. So I think that we all need to go and take a look at that and see what they have to say. But it is important because I mean everybody's talking about it and viewing it as being significant, of significance. So that's a great thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know who directed that or put it together, but I mean I think that the timing's pretty good.
I think God, his name escapes me. The guy with the beard that's been doing a bunch of UFO documentaries lately. Corbell, James Corbell. I think that he was involved with it.
Okay, yeah.
I think I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, yeah, okay.
So now if you've got a bunch of books that are out. The one that we have been talking about tonight, the one with the UFOs, the flying saucers and the esoteric. Yeah, that's just one of a whole litany of books that you have. I've looked at what you've written, and you've got like a lot. So if someone is listening or watching this podcast episode right now and they're interested in buying some of your work, how can they go about doing that? Where do they need to go?
Well, first of all, instead of saying that I have a litany of books, I was hoping that you would have said I have a plethora of books.
There you go. Plethora. There you go. Thank you.
That's an example of my sense of humor. But yeah, I have a website. It's www.maximfurek.com, MAXIMFUREK. And there's a website there. You could see, what I do, a little bit of bio, and then there's all the books with a review about the books. And if anybody wants a autographed copy, a signed copy, they could contact me through the website. And again, I would say this to your listeners: please support.
I've lost your video feed. I don't know what happened to you. I can hear you, but I've lost your video feed. There you go. You're back. Okay.
Yeah, I wonder what happened. Okay.
Okay.
I would say
please support. Yeah.
I would say to the listeners to certainly support local libraries and bookstores, local podcasts, local authors. I mean, we are the ones that need the support and the help. for the revenue, to get monetized, all that. Not corporate America. So I would, again, just think about that and think about where you want to put your support. And I certainly would, appreciate if anybody was interested in purchasing any of my books from my website or from Amazon or any place else, to please put a review on Amazon. That is the key. That is really something that is beneficial to us authors, and it just does something to the algorithm, and it's a good thing. So,
Okay.
That's one thing that I would ask.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
And last question, I ask this of everybody.
Uh-oh.
If there's someone watching or listening to this who wants to get in touch with you, maybe they've had an experience, whether it's a paranormal experience or UFO, UAP experience, or maybe they just want to pick your brain a little bit more, how can we get in contact with you? Do you have social media presence?
Yeah, I have a
find
Facebook page. They could contact me through Facebook, Maxim Furek. Incidentally, people that come up to me and share paranormal themes with me, typically it's that they see orbs or that they talk to dead people, typically family members. So those are the two biggies. And, I get this all the time, and I have no answers, only to say that this happens frequently,
So you have a Facebook page, Maxim Furek, and Maxim is Maxim.
Yep.
Furek. I'll have that right there,
Okay.
so everybody can see how it's spelled. Maxim Furek on Facebook.
Very good. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much. This has been a fascinating talk. We didn't even get anywhere near into all the stuff that I wanted to discuss with you about. It's been very fascinating. And I definitely want to get you back on the podcast to talk about your book about the Smurl haunting, because that is very interesting to me with Ed and Lorraine Warren. That's another couple of people that I have issues with at times. So
yeah, a lot of people do.
Yeah.
We should do that.
Yes, I definitely am going to get you back on. We're definitely going to talk about that here soon. Everybody, this has been Mr. Maxim W. Furek. He is a fascinating person to talk to. Got a lot of knowledge about the paranormal and the UFO phenomena. Which do you prefer, UFO or UAP?
Oh, definitely UFO or flying saucers. I still
old school.
I'm going against the Pentagon with that. But,
gotcha.
Everybody knows what we're talking about when we do that. I want to say one last thing before we close. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I served aboard the USS Constellation, an aircraft carrier.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you. And I was a radarman. I saw flying saucers. I saw bogies, solid, maneuverable bogies. They were faster and more maneuverable than any guided missiles we had or the Soviets had. We don't know what they are. They were anomalous. We put them in the logbooks as UFOs, and we were told, keep your mouth shut. Don't tell anybody what you saw. Same as your experience. So, that's going around. So,
is your book, Flying Saucer Esoteric, The Altered States of Ufology, is available on Amazon and on your website. Now, is your website MaximFurek.com?
Yeah, www.maximfurek.com. Yeah, easy to get.
All right. Thank you very much for appearing on the podcast, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thank you, Sandman. Have a great day, and thank you to your listeners for listening in. Okay, have a good one.
You too. There's a strange thing that happens when you spend time studying the UFO phenomenon long enough. Whether you're a researcher, an experiencer, a skeptic, or simply somebody standing at the edge of curiosity, eventually the phenomenon stops being about craft and starts being about us. Over the course of this conversation, we've explored ideas that stretch far beyond the lights in the sky. We've touched on ancient astronomy, alleged ancient corpses, modern government hearings, 20th century contactees, folklore, consciousness, altered states, and the evolving psychological architecture of belief itself. And woven throughout all of that is a single uncomfortable truth. whatever the UFO phenomena is, it refuses to stay in just one category. It's not purely physical. It's not purely mythological. It's not purely psychological. And it's not purely technological. Instead, it exists in the space between all of those things, between witness and belief, between evidence and interpretation, between government secrecy and public speculation, and between ridicule and revelation. Some will say the flying saucer era began in 1947 with Kenneth Arnold, Roswell, and the modern age of sightings. And others will argue, as tonight's discussion has kind of echoed, that the roots reach deeper than that. Long before radar, before the Air Force, before high-definition cameras and congressional hearings, they stretch maybe into scripture, but they definitely go into myth and folklore, celestial omens, and collective human history. And when you examine that full timeline, the pattern becomes harder to ignore. Whether it's George Adamski's controversial claims, the Shaver mystery, the USS Nimitz encounter, or the recent political firestorm surrounding whistleblowers like David Grusch, every era seems to have its own version of contact, controversy, and confrontation with the unknown. And yet every era also has something missing: closure. And instead of answers, the phenomenon gives us more questions. It gives us questions about physics, questions about consciousness, questions about the nature of reality and our place within it. Is Bigfoot connected to UFOs? Are extraterrestrials biological entities, interdimensional intelligences, time travelers, or something far outside human understanding that our vocabulary hasn't even caught up to yet? Are alleged alien bodies, congressional confessions, leaked videos, and government programs the beginning of this closure, or just another layer of misdirection? Are we witnessing the unraveling of truth or the evolution of belief? That's the strange beauty and frustration at the heart of Maxim Furek's work in Flying Saucer Esoteric. It isn't a book that tries to give you just one answer. It isn't about pushing a single narrative. Instead, it challenges the reader to look at the entire tapestry: the contactees, the hoaxes, the whistleblowers, the myth makers, the experiencers, the fabric of pop culture, and the shifting psychological landscape of an audience waking up to the possibility that we are not, and may never have been, alone. Whether disclosure is already happening, whether it's being withheld, or whether the phenomenon is something we're still not equipped to understand, one thing's certain: humanity is paying attention now. And what we once lived in whispered speculation and late night radio shows now sits in congressional hearings, scientific panels, and the mainstream conversation. The taboo has cracked. Now, maybe not wide open, but enough to let the light shine through. So, as we close tonight's journey, let's consider this. Maybe the most profound part of the UFO mystery isn't the craft, the things in the sky. Maybe it's what the mystery reveals about us, our fears, our hopes, our imagination, our limits, and our readiness, or lack thereof, to confront something bigger than ourselves. And perhaps the real question isn't, what are UFOs? Maybe the question is, what will we become once we finally know? Because one day, whether through science, disclosure, contact, or consciousness, the truth's going to come out one way or the other. And when it does, it won't just change what we believe. It'll change who we are. And that, my friends, about does it for tonight. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. Before I do that, here are just a couple more things. Hey guys, I'd love to hear from you. Do you have a story, a question, or a topic you'd like for me to cover? If so, you can reach me directly by email at sandman@parareality.com. Or, for a more personal touch, you can just call the Secret Bunker at 615-461-5001 and leave a message. Just know that by calling, you're giving me permission to feature your voice on the podcast. Again, that number to call is 615-461-5001. You want to stay up to date with all things ParaReality? Then follow me on all major social media platforms. You can find me on Facebook at sandman.parareality, or you can follow me on X, Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok by looking for my handle at ParaRealRadio. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel by looking for ParaReality 1. That's ParaReality with the number 1 behind it. And don't forget to visit my website, ParaReality.com. That's where you'll find an archive of all of my past podcast episodes for free. You can also find the latest in paranormal news from all around the world under the Para News section. Your support means everything, whether you buy something from my store or leave me a positive review on whatever podcast app you're listening on. A 3-star or higher review goes a long way in helping this podcast reach new listeners, and I would truly appreciate it. Thank you. I hope that you enjoyed tonight's episode of ParaReality. The next episode will drop on Friday, February the 6th, 2026 at 8 o'clock Central U.S. time. And this is going to be the final part of my 2-part series on disclosure. So make sure you tune in, and find out. I hope that this podcast opens your mind up to new ways of thinking, expands your consciousness, and produces a change in the way you see the world. If you wish to change, you must lift the veil of ignorance that has been cast over your eyes. Only then will you see the true power of the universe. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and I will see you again in a couple of weeks. Good night, everybody.
If you wish to change, you must first lift the veil of ignorance that has been cast over your eyes. Only then will you see the true power of the universe.